Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Live Ultralight podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about the hidden gems of our new backpack that is now shipping or shipped out, the KotaUL. Pretty excited about this. This has been a long time coming. We've obviously been doing design work on it a long time, and then just waiting for that production takes a while. But those of you also that back this on Kickstarter probably feel like you've been waiting for this for a minute. But now it's here. We're hearing the feedback. We're excited about that. And we wanted to do a up-to-date podcast, I guess, on just some of the hidden gems, things you guys might not realize about the KotaUL, what makes it, that next level of travel pack in our minds. So today I've got Derek on here to talk through this with us. Derek is the head of marketing director for us, but he's also someone who does a fair bit of traveling, you could say, with the KotaUL.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited for this podcast episode because, in marketing, part of our job is to tell all of you guys everything that the KotaUL can do. And a lot of you have seen the Kickstarter page, you've seen the product listings, and we've tried to list out as many features, capabilities, etc. as we possibly can. But there's always a chance we miss stuff because there's so much going on with the KotaUL. And so I think hopefully today we're going to cover some things that you may or may not have been able to glean just by looking at those pages or listings and watching videos that we've already published. So this is going to be a good way to really get familiar with KotaUL if you haven't already grabbed them for yourself.
Yeah, so for those of you that are just turning in, this is the Live Ultralight podcast. It is powered by Outdoor Vitals. That's where we're at right now, is the Outdoor Vitals headquarters. But the whole point of this podcast is to inspire you to get outdoors and help you lighten your pack and do so with more confidence. So I think we're going to have that happen today, but I think we're also just going to get you excited about this. Now, Derek, going back to that point, would you say that this was perhaps the most difficult or challenging item you've had to market to explain details on?
I would say it's definitely one of them. I think as a general rule, I usually feel like the current product I'm working on is the most difficult. I'm always trying to push myself to okay, how can we show this thing in the best light? How can we make sure everybody knows just the amount of design work that Brigham and Tayson and other members of the design team have really put into this thing? So typically it's whatever the current product is the hardest. But if we're going to look backwards, then the KotaUL was one of the hardest for sure to really get launched.
I would probably chime into that a big part of why you feel that is because you can go as deep as you have time for on our products. And what I mean by that is take something like the Ventus active hoodie. While you might look at it on the exterior and say that's a fairly simple hoodie, there's not a pocket on it and it's just a half zip or 3/4 zip. But then if you want to, you can go super deep. You can get super deep into the technical specs of the fabric and the insulation and the laser perforated arm vents. And you can just go deeper and deeper and deeper. Whereas the Kota, it's just going to fill up as much space and time as you have because you could go deeper and deeper and deeper between the pocketings and the compartmentalization and some of that we're going to get into here. Because it is when I look at it, it's man, if you were to really go in depth on every single part of it, it's a pretty technical piece because there's just so much inside the pack, on the exterior of the pack. There's so many iterations we went through and learning experiences.
And even more than just the features, there's so much about just the materials that have been used in the KotaUL. Just what the mesh is made out of. You can go so deep, and just the more you learn, the more impressed that I know I am, the more I learn about the KotaUL backpack and each one of our new products. We've got a lot of other things that we're going to be releasing really soon that there's a lot of deep things that are almost just exciting, but we'll get into those at another time.
So purpose of this is not to be a big sales pitch on the KotaUL. The purpose of this is to explain hidden gems and hidden features of the Kota and maybe look at some upcoming trips that we both have and ways that we might use the pack. We hope that this is more useful and also inspiring to help you be holy cow, maybe I could one bag travel and make that happen versus, use a rolling suitcase and make travel this big, extensive, comprehensive thing. From my experience and something I believe with every fiber of my being is that the more simple you make things, the less fear, the more confidence you have, and the more likely you're just going to go out and do something like traveling. We've shared different experiences on the podcast before of just how when you get things more simplified, you do more stuff. So hopefully by us talking about some of these things, you can put yourself in that mindset of, hey, that's a really good tip to apply to my current travels. Or if you're someone who doesn't actively travel, you can take that and say, maybe this is something I could actually do. Maybe I don't need 3 bags every time I go traveling around the world. So let's dive into that. I'm just going to start off with a question, Derek. What do you think is the number one thing people don't already know or understand about the KotaUL? The first or best hidden gem you have about the pack?
I think probably the number one thing that people don't know. That was your question, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a tough one.
We did not have a lot of prep time to give them like the top 5. So this is going to be spur of the moment for sure.
I think one of the things that people don't already know is just like, you can decide how you're going to use the pack. It has almost unlimited possibility of how you want to pack, how you want to use it, how you want to pull it out in the middle of a trip to grab something. The way that you travel, the way that if you're backpacking with it, the way that you pack really is up to you. And I think most people, when you're shopping for a travel bag specifically, you're looking for the kind of organization features that you're used to or that you like. I think the number one thing that people probably don't know about the KotaUL is no matter what you're used to, no matter what you like when you're traveling, if you've already used some of these similar like one bag travel style bags, the KotaUL most likely can do it. It just depends on how you're going to use the features we've built in. All of them are optional and all of them are customizable. And so I think that would be my number one thing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good one. I'm going to take it a step farther with my tip. And I'm going to talk about the deep carry storage compartments. So we've kind of got 2 hidden. We have one that we call like a hidden compartment, and the other one is a long-term storage compartment. So the first one is actually on the exterior pocket, the big like back panel. So if you were standing directly behind the pack, it'd be the big one that you see there that's got a zippered mesh in the top of it. But what most people don't realize is that in the bottom section of that pocket, totally invisible to looking in the pocket or seeing in the pocket, is a second zippered pocket. It's a good, we call it kind of like the deep carry, but you can really tuck things in there and they're like out of sight, out of mind, and they're not flopping around and loose. We didn't actually, funny story, in the design of this, we didn't necessarily intend to make that pocket like hidden and down in there. We kind of thought that you'd open up the pack and be able to see it. But once we did that and we got it back and we're like, whoa, that one is like really hidden. That's really nice because you can carry certain things down in there. So for instance, when I was just traveling down into Mexico, one of the things I typically do just as a safety protocol is I will put my cash in different sections. Sometimes, you stuff a little bit into like a pair of socks or something, but you can also just tuck it in different parts of the pack. So I put some cash down in that pocket, and the other place that I put some of my cash was actually in the long-term storage compartment. And this also wasn't necessarily designed in the very beginning to be a long-term storage compartment. It was designed just for the frame. So because the Kota has a tall, frame that helps distribute that weight down to your hips instead of on your shoulders where it gets really heavy, it has a frame area. And if you unvelcro the top of the pack, you can see the frame, but you also have access to kind of a hidden velcroed, what we call a long-term storage pocket. Now that pocket is not designed for like getting in and out of the backpack all the time. It's more designed to store things long-term there. But that was another area that I took some cash and tucked down in the very bottom corner of that would be really hard to find if someone was trying to, pickpocket, or maybe it's someone in a hostel that's trying to sort through your bag and pull something out. Or maybe a house cleaner or something like that. You never know. But those are 2, what I would say, less than obvious things on the pack that people probably didn't know about.
Yeah, those are good ones. I've definitely used the long-term storage pocket a lot. One of my favorite things, I think you touched on this, but one of my favorite things to put in that long storage term pocket is the hip belt, the removable hip belt. You think something like that, when you shove it down in a pocket that's like that close to your back, it might feel lumpy or it might be uncomfortable, but that's not the case with the KotaUL. Well, I put the hip belt down in that long-term pocket and I never even feel it. Like when I throw that backpack on, that padded EVA foam padded back panel, it totally disguises everything. There's no lumps. It's just comfortable. I can still walk around with it when I'm not wanting to use that hip belt. In addition to little things like Tayson hiding things in there, like it just works so awesome for so many different things.
I would be lying to you guys if I told you that I have not lost things in the long-term storage compartment before. So it does work well. You do not feel it in your back, and I think that's maybe a third hidden gem is that a lot of backpacks out there, like you tuck, let's say, the hip belt away when you don't want it, and then you pull it back out. But not a lot of them are fully removable, like the KotaUL. So you can tuck the hip belt behind the back panel for like quicker storage or short-term storage, but then you can fully remove it as well for long-term storage, which is a really good hidden gem because a lot of times for me, I am using this piece. I personally am the only one in the office that maybe does this, but I use it every single day. I bring it to and from the office every single day with my laptop in it. The days I'm going to the gym, I've got my gym stuff in there to shower and change at the gym so I can come into work faster. That's how I personally use it. And so, anyways, I've lost things in there before, but also when I'm using it in that configuration, I don't want the hip belt because the pack isn't necessarily heavy and I don't have it on my shoulders very long. So it's just easier to have it completely out of the way.
Yeah, it's so nice to throw it back there. I just actually thought of something else that probably not a lot of people know about the KotaUL until they've maybe had it for a long time, actually. Inside,
this sounds good.
Yeah,
right, you got me on the hook.
Inside the main pocket, you notice it's there, but you don't ever think about using it, is my experience. And anyone I've talked to, they don't even think about using it. There's a lot of mesh, right? And this mesh is not just normal mesh, it's stretch mesh. You can put a lot of things in these mesh pockets. The most obvious one is kind of on the back side of the main compartment.
Like straight across from the laptop
sleeve. Straight across from the laptop sleeve. It's a big, wide, zippered mesh pocket, and that's what you see most of all. But a lot of people miss on the other side of your compression straps where you can actually clip the KotaUL together. There's 2 more 3/4 length stretch mesh pockets. And those work incredibly well for stuffing things really fast and keeping them out of the main compartment basically. So I still feel like I have the same amount of capacity within that main compartment to shove stuff, gear, whatever it is. But I've also been able to shove things down those side mesh pockets and keep them out of the way, keep them from mixing with whatever's in the middle, and keep it out of sight, basically. Whether that's dirty socks, Brigham, he uses it for dirty socks as well. My wife and I, whenever we go on trips, that's probably the first place we're going to shove our dirty laundry is on the sides of that main compartment. But I think that's a little detail that's missed. It's only been mentioned briefly on like the Kickstarter page or on the listing. There's just so many things we couldn't spend enough time, I think, on those side pockets, but they're really helpful.
Yeah, and this isn't to make it sound, maybe I'm just forgetful, I don't know, but this isn't to make it sound like the pack is complicated. It's really simple, but I get in such a groove sometimes using the pack every day that I'm not always like really analyzing the pack, I guess you could say. And over time, sometimes I like start to put a few more things in the pack, and then every once in a while I got to kind of clean it out of clutter, right? But last night I was actually transferring my stuff from the green prototype I'd been using for like a year straight, over a year, to a new black one. I like the black one. I think it looks really good. And most of the time I'm using it urban, and so black looks a little better in urban. And I found 2 pairs of socks and a pair of underwear in the side drop pocket you're talking about. I'm like, that's where those darn tough socks have been. I've been looking for those.
See, that's
I've been in there like a month.
If you put your dirty socks on those side things, they'll stay out of your way, and you won't feel like your dirty socks are mixing with everything else in your main compartment there.
Yeah. Fortunately, they were not dirty, so they weren't stinky or anything, but they were perfectly new, clean socks that I dropped in there for a trip like a month ago. And just forgot and had been wondering why I was a little low on socks for the past little bit. But really good tip. Sticking with inside the pack before I go to the exterior again, because I feel like we've got to talk about some of the straps. But sticking with inside, I think people are pretty aware of the ability to compress from. So one of the things we built into the KotaUL is an internal compression system to keep the outside of the pack strap free. By doing that, though, what I think gets overlooked is your ability to half compress the bag or 2/3 compress the bag. So along each side of the inner part of the KotaUL, you've got these clips. And when you clip those down, you can essentially take the volume of the main pocket and cut it in half. But what I don't think a lot of people understand is that you can also just do the top 2 clips, right? And do like a 1/3 compression. Or you could do the top 2 clips and then the middle 2 clips and get like a 2/3 compression. Or any version of that you find suitable. So I think that's a hidden gem, because one of the things that annoys the crap out of me is this is a 40-liter pack, but you don't always need 40 liters. And so having a big floppy pack is not something you want to have walking around on the trail, whatever you're up to. So half compressing the bag, I think, is a hidden gem of the KotaUL.
I've actually done that quite a few times. Everyone, when you've gone to school, I imagine you've experienced this, or you've watched your kids heading out the door to school and they've got these backpacks on and they just look like everything is in the bottom. The bottom of their backpack is really wide and full looking, and then it kind of tapers up towards their shoulder where it's kind of empty and just got a bunch of space, right? And that's really like the weight's just kind of swinging around the bottom of their back as they walk. I hate that, especially if I'm going to be wearing a pack for a long time, if I'm traveling, walking through airport lines, whatever, on the train. So by using what Tayson said, these compression straps, if I can't compress the entire pack because of the amount of stuff I have in it, I do like to compress the very bottom 2 compression straps. That way the weight isn't going to be able to just settle all in the bottom and kind of swing in the bottom of my back. When all the weight's kind of in my lower back area, it's not as comfortable as when it's kind of distributed across the entire length of my back. And so by just compressing a little bit, I don't lose all of the capacity in the pack, but it keeps the weight from all sinking or sagging to the very bottom. And that's made the pack way more comfortable for me in a lot of different scenarios.
Yep, I actually like that, because what I would do is on a day-to-day basis, like in and out of the office, I always compress the top 2 buckles, because aesthetically it might look the best, but carrying wise, doing what Derek is saying and starting at the bottom and compressing the bottom ones is going to be more comfortable on your back to help push that load up and towards the middle section of the backpack, which is where you're going to want to carry that load. So I think that's a really good one. I would also say, just as a tiny bonus, the laptop sleeve on it is really quite large. So like this laptop, for those of you watching on YouTube, I think this is like a 14-inch laptop. If I'm going to take a book or a notebook or anything like that, that's heavy. A book is heavy, a notebook is heavy, it's dense. I will put it in the laptop sleeve with my laptop. There's enough space in there, which keeps it very comfortable on your back, gets it really close to your back, and is right in the center of the backpack. So another good way to load that pack. Let's talk about the extra straps. I think the mechanism, so with the backpack comes 4 extra straps. There are 2 that are longer, 2 that are shorter, and those straps, man, the possibilities are essentially infinite, but I want to make sure people understand the hardware, and then we can talk about like maybe some applications that we've used it. So the hardware itself is maybe not super intuitive when you first see it. It's a plastic piece of hardware from Duraflex, and it's got this little silver wire that kind of loops around. And if you actually just crunch that buckle, the wire pops down and over the plastic tab and opens up. And then around the pack, you'll see these little tiny webbing loops. You can slide that through the webbing loop, and then you just take the wire gate and you just push it back down, and it will clip back over the plastic composite portion of that buckle. When it is, closed, when that wire gate is closed, that buckle can handle a ton of weight. It's tested, it's very thoroughly tested. Duraflex makes, I believe they make all of the hardware, or if not most of the hardware, for like military, and they're just a very proven company. And that particular buckle is very strong once it's closed. So again, you just pinch it, it pops open, you slide it wherever you need to, you close that wire gate, and that thing's ready to rock. So again, you have 4 straps, 2 short, 2 long. Derek, maybe start off with the first or the best application you've ever had for using those straps.
Okay, so my wife and I, we like to travel to a lot of different places. We do a lot of different things, some internationally, some locally within the US. The first thing that comes to mind for me is we went over to explore the Smoky Mountains, and we spent some time in Asheville. We had some amazing biscuits and gravy in this little place called Biscuit
Almost
Head.
dinner time, man.
It was good. We also spent some time in Gatlinburg, but then we also did an overnight trip, like backpacking trip, in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. And so we couldn't fly with everything we needed. The airline wasn't going to let us bring, trekking poles or tent poles or, things like that. So what we actually ended up doing is we rented a car once we got to North Carolina, and we used the Turo app. A lot of you guys probably have heard of that. It's a really nice, easy way to rent cars from people when you go travel places. But we messaged this Turo car owner and asked if he had, by any chance, a tent that we could borrow. And because we didn't want to fly with one and we didn't want to go buy one.
That's a risky move, my friend.
It was risky, but he did. And we figured, if we don't want to use it, it's too big or bulky, we just won't, we'll do something else. But anyways, we show up, we get the car, we check it out, and we find the tent that he'd left in there for us. And it would work. It was just a little bit bigger than the tents that I'm used to packing, but it wasn't that much heavier. And so we used these straps that Tayson's been talking about to strap them onto the back of our packs when we decided to head out and do our overnight backpacking trip in the Smokies. And that worked really well. So the tent poles, the way they folded, they were just a little bit long to fit comfortably inside the pack with the other gear we were also carrying. And so being able to strap them on the bottom of the pack, it worked really well. We used the two longer straps for that. And then it rained overnight, quite a bit, which is not uncommon. But then we were like, well, we don't really want to just shove this wet tent fly in with the rest of our stuff. We just kind of want to see if we can dry it out. We don't want to roll it up either and shove it on the bottom of the pack. So we actually split up who had the poles. This time we used the short strap, and we shoved the poles on the side of one of our packs down into the water bottle pocket, and then we used a short strap around the top so they didn't fall out or swing around or anything, and they were pretty secure on the side of the KotaUL backpack. And then the other one of us, we used two long straps and made kind of an X across the back of it just to hold the fly folded loosely onto the back of one of our packs while we hiked out. And that way it could dry out a little bit more and get more air through it while we were hiking. And we didn't have to just have it all rolled up around the poles and strapped to the bottom, which we could do as well, and we did do. But this way we were able to carry that tent in multiple different ways without ever having to put it inside our pack, get our stuff wet, or rearrange how our things inside of the pack were already packed, and worked out really well. Which, by the way, those little buckles that Tayson's talking about, that they just pop open when you pinch it, super, super satisfying. I don't know if you're one of those people, but it's just like that little
like a click factor.
that little pop. It's just like a little pinch, and then there's this pop, and it's just super satisfying.
Yeah, I would agree. I do enjoy opening those up and closing them.
That's what Tayson does on the plane the whole time.
It's just like my little
popping his clips
called,
over
like
there.
a widget or fidget or whatever at your desk. That's a really good one because you kind of covered a handful of ways to use those accessories. So obviously we've talked, I think, before on the podcast about using it for a bear can, strapping a bear can to the outside. I've seen people use it to strap a pad. So I'm not going to go more into that. I have used it on the inside of the pack to kind of lash stuff in place that I wasn't getting in and out of the pack a lot, and I wanted to stay stable. Not a lot, but I have done that. But I'm going to use this as a segue over to accessories. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the pack. Let's jump over to like the top takeaways from how to use the accessories that come with the pack or that you can purchase with the pack. You can buy a bundle. For those of you that are buying this or looking about buying this, I would highly advise the bundle. They're all very useful. And here's why. So I take the accessory straps, the long ones, and I actually attach them to the small or medium-sized packing cube. By doing that, we actually sewed little tabs on there so that you could do this. You can turn that little packing cube into a small backpack, if you will. And I use that when I get on planes for a personal items bag. I take my main KotaUL, I put it in that overhead bin, and then I turn around and take that little packing cube. I might have a book in there. I'm going to have like maybe some little snacks or something, for the plane ride, maybe a bottle of water, maybe some charging, stuff for my phone or earbuds, stuff like that. I just tuck those in that little packing cube. I throw at least one strap on or both straps on so I can use those as a little backpack, and then it makes it super easy when you're getting on the plane to utilize. So I want to say that's the number one tip, the big gem, hidden gem of the packing cube. So from there, Derek, I'll let you do a hidden gem on either the dot bag or the compression bag.
Okay, so that's a tough one. Between all the accessories, I think my two favorites, and it's always a toss-up. On some days, my favorite is the compression dry bag. On other days, I really like the dot bag. So I'm just going to go with the dot bag to talk about first. This thing it's awesome for both travel and backpacking. And here's why. It's completely waterproof, and at least I should say water resistant, but it's going to be really hard. It's essentially waterproof.
It's seam tape.
Really hard to get
zippers are water resistant. There's not really such a thing as a waterproof zipper. So
it's more or less YKK AquaGuard zipper.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a hard time getting anything inside of there wet. And so in a backpacking application, that dot bag works really well. If you've got electronics, you've got a phone, you've got a battery bank or anything like that, you just really don't want to get wet. You can throw it in there and it'll fit perfectly. Usually that's the perfect size for the amount of electronics: phone, charger, cables, battery, etc. Maybe a little pair of headphones for podcasts at night or something. That'll fit in there, no problem. But on a travel application, this thing works really well. You never have to worry about your shampoo or soap or anything else exploding, opening up and getting all over the rest of your other stuff, because it works backwards too. Water can't get in very easy, but neither can any of the stuff that's already inside there get out. And so I've had a lot of experiences traveling where something will open and get squeezed, or the pressure when we're high up in the air in the airplane, things just explode and get all over my stuff, which sucks. But if you use the dot bag, you never have to worry about that. Never, because it's not going to leak out of that zipper, and it's not going to leak out of anywhere else in that bag. So that thing is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I would say, just like you, I use the dot bag for both backpacking and more adventure travel style.
I mean, it weighs like maybe an ounce.
Yeah, it's really light, really lightweight. So I use it. Actually, my first aid kit for backpacking is inside of that dot bag. It's a gray one. It was a prototype we had early on, but that's my first aid kit. And then I also put my battery bank in with my first aid kit because it's waterproof. So kind of two birds with one stone for backpacking. And then for adventure travel, like I said, I use that Kota every day. What I actually do, my hidden gem, I guess would say, would be load up that little dot bag with extras, an extra toothbrush, an extra tube of toothpaste, extra deodorant, those extra things you need. And I just leave it in my KotaUL all the time. And you'll be surprised, because it's kind of freeing that when you want to go travel on a weekend or just do something super quick, all I have to do is literally grab a few changes of clothes, toss them in the bag, and I know I'm set. Like, I leave my laptop in there because I'm taking it to and from work in there. I've got a dot bag in there at all times with my toiletries. So literally that bag, I throw in a pair of shorts, change a shirt, pair of underwear, that type of thing, and I can go for a weekend in minutes. In fact, most of the time at my house, I'm like loading the car, I'm getting everyone ready, and literally my family is like getting in and getting seat belted in when I run upstairs, grab my changes of clothes, and then I'm packed. Like, that's how much time I typically get to pack. And it works really well. So that's my hidden gem, is get the dot bag and just load it up with extras so that you can just leave it with the pack or leave it ready to go at any point in time. It's super fast and super effective. So, all right, let's jump to the dry bag compression. I'm going to jump ahead of you, and I'm going to talk about one time when I used the dry bag for compression. So the dry bag I also use for backpacking. I also use it for travel. I use it for backpacking to put my top quilt in and other layers that I want waterproof. But in senses of traveling, I use it for compression. So putting clothing in there, you can roll the top, kneel on it, and really get all the air out of there and compress things down to free up more space in your pack. One of the things that I compress down, and I feel like this is a pretty good feat, is me, my wife, and my two kids were headed to Mexico to a resort a year ago. And we took just 2 KotaUL backpacks, and I think my boy had like his little school backpack, you know. I don't think really anything was in there because we didn't really want to have him carry anything heavy. So realistically, we had 4 people in 2 bags. But the hardest thing for something like this to take is life jackets. I've got 2 kids, we need life jackets. So they were using like the puddle jumpers that go around their arms, like their biceps and their chest. And so I had all my clothes in there and I shoved 2 puddle jumpers in there and compressed that down and got them into my pack easily. And that's really saved a lot of space.
That's pretty impressive. I didn't know that.
I was pretty impressed. That was probably my hidden gem though, is just not only can you compress things, but you can get more in there than you think you can.
Yeah, I love the compression dry bag. It's awesome. We went to Finland. We've talked about that on another podcast episode. So if you want to learn more details about that trip, we had a wild adventure. But a lot of people before we left, we were going to Finland in February, which is when it's covered in snow, right? There's tons of ice and snow, and we were going to spend pretty much 80 to 90% of our time in Finland above the Arctic Circle, so where it's even colder. So a lot of people asked us, how are you going to pack enough warm stuff to be comfortable over there when they found out all we were bringing were just 1 backpack each, the KotaUL. And the reason is the compression dry bag. And so we packed in a lot of our Nova UL jackets, Nova Pro jackets, Ventuses, things like that, a lot of warmth layers, and all of it fit within that compression dry bag and then compressed pretty dang small. Just to give you some context, Sorel makes a really popular winter boot. It's an insulated winter boot. It's got like a little fleece thing on the top. It's leather and it's got the rubber bottom. Just your most classic winter boot, I guess. Those are
if you'd seen this, you'd know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He talked about it for like a month and I was like, what are you talking about? And then I saw it and I'm like, I know exactly. Why did you just say it was that? But like, how do you describe it?
Rubber bottom, leather up your leg, and then like a little fleece around the top. Just classic boot, right? They're really good and they're really warm and insulated, which is why we're bringing them. But they're huge, they're bulky. And so for context of how small we were able to pack things in the compression dry bag, we each had a pair of those boots in our KotaUL, which took up at least half of the capacity of these packs. And everything else for the whole trip, changes of clothes, toiletries, and all of our insulating layers, including, gloves and hats and, whatever else. We had snow pants, like snowboarding pants as well, that we packed in there.
That's impressive.
Everything fit in the packs. And because we were able to compress it so small.
That's a good one.
And so that was huge because while everything compressed so small, that gave us the ability to take the 1 pack and do anything we wanted when we were over there. We didn't have to haul around extra luggage. Literally, we hopped from place to place just wearing a backpack. And even during the day, we spent some time on the last day there exploring Helsinki. We didn't have anywhere to put our packs down because we checked out of our hotel. Actually, the night before we didn't even have a hotel. We rode a night train that you just sleep on. When you get off the train, you have nowhere to put your stuff, right? We just walked around and explored a lot of things in Helsinki just wearing our backpacks, and we were totally comfortable because we weren't packing any more luggage. And that we were able to do because we were able to compress things in that compression dry bag, and that was awesome.
I think that's a huge. I want to go with that for a second. Just the fact that like so many people, when they have to check out of their hotel, the next thing they have to do is go straight to an airport or go straight here, because what are they going to do? Like pull rolling luggage around the city and go sightseeing? Like it's not really a thing. So just those, like, let's just say like you get an extra 4 hours on each end of a booking to travel the city because you just have a backpack instead of rolling luggage. It makes a world of difference, and you see things that you normally wouldn't get to see. You get extra time in every place because instead of, all right, I guess let's just go straight to the airport once we have to check out of our hotel room, you get that extra time to just travel, which is really freeing and really awesome. I know the first time I ever did that, I was in college. I was not a travel backpack. It was actually an old Osprey backpacking pack that I had. And I did that, and I just walked around the city, and I'll tell you kind of a funny story, actually. I took a red-eye flight because it was the cheapest, got into Miami, and was going to, later in the day, I was going to be getting on a cruise ship, meeting up with someone, and I just had all day to like sit there and bum around, and I was walking around and I'd flying on that red eye, and I just had my backpack, and I'm like, I'm going to go to this zoo. So I'm like on the public transit, I go to this, sorry, not a zoo, like a astronomy museum thing. Yeah. And I remember I take my backpack, I just walk in there and I sit down in this like theater to do like a Star Tour thing. And I lay down and the seats like recline and the sky lights up and there's all these beautiful stars, and I'm like looking at them. And then the lights are coming on. And I'm like, what the heck? I like sit up real fast. Yeah, I fell asleep for like a straight hour during this whole like presentation, and didn't see any of it, but it was pretty comical. But yes, it was a pretty freeing trip though, because obviously after that I went and saw other stuff, walked around the city, saw this these different things. It was a lot of fun. And then when I got off the cruise ship again, instead of going straight back to the airport, I had all day to go around the city and see stuff, and it was a good time. But speaking of that, looking forward, airports are busy again. That was really interesting. When we were flying in May, they were super, super busy. It's cool to see travel opening back up. It's just so good, I think, for the world at large to have those barriers be broken down again. Economies opening back up. It's just a really good thing to see. And I hope that you guys listening to this are also some that are maybe booking some travel or just getting out there, covering country and seeing more stuff. I know it's a big part of our lives. I know it's a big part of culture, and very excited to see that happening. But this fall we'll be heading to Germany for business, and then we'll be doing some sightseeing and traveling after that. At least I will be. We'll see if anyone else is planning on sticking around. In the winter, we'll be heading over to Asia, doing some more traveling. Just got a lot of upcoming stuff that I'm looking forward to, and looking forward to putting the KotaUL out there again. But
yeah, I think honestly the KotaUL is an amazing backpack, and again, if I could just get something across to as many people as possible, it would be this: it helps you live ultralight. That's one of our core values. We really believe in that. We really believe that anyone's life is going to be better if you can live ultralight. And that doesn't mean get rid of things you like. That just means you can go further, you can do more, you can do things like Tayson did, like I did in Finland, where if you only have that one backpack to worry about. Well, Maddie and I, that day in Helsinki, we spent time hopping from shop to shop and little cafe and breakfast place and just getting one little thing and just trying as many different local foods as we could. And we spent a few hours doing that. We covered some ground just doing a food tour of our own, I guess, that we'd kind of decided, hey, we're going to go try as many weird local things that they don't have in America as we possibly can. And that was awesome. And if you had to go straight to a hotel from like the train that we got off that morning, you would have missed all of that. So the KotaUL is awesome. It'll help you out in simplifying your trips in a way that will make them way more enjoyable. It'll allow you to backpack. My wife actually prefers the KotaUL backpack for any backpacking trip. A lot of us in the company here will go on our monthly backpacking trips and be hiking in the mountains or in the desert. And rather than grab a shadow light or some of the other things that we're trying out or testing, she'll always reach for the KotaUL because she thinks it's that comfortable and it's awesome.
Yeah. You see why he's in the marketing department here. He's good at pitching stuff. I would say my last thing is we covered a lot of hidden gems. There's so many more. We didn't even touch on the fact that you can get a full pair of shoes literally in that internal mesh zippered pocket inside there. Or you can fit a full Nalgene bottle on the side. There's all these different things that you can use, but I'm excited for you guys to take this out, apply it in the way that you want to, and get the most out of it for you guys. I'm pretty excited to just see where the KotaUL goes. And my biggest point I'd get across with this pack is there's literally nothing else like it on the market. People try to compare it to other pieces. We've compared it internally a lot to other pieces, and it really is filling a gap in travel and adventure travel that is not filled in any other way. I know I've bought like 10 plus travel and adventure backpacks, and nothing does what the KotaUL does. So take it, stack it up against anything else, take a peek at it, and I promise you, when you're actually using this piece, you will love it, which really comes back to, again, one of our purpose, especially in design, is designing for performance, not price points, designing for performance, not fill in the blank, right? And in the field, we have thoroughly tested this piece in airports, traveling, hiking, backpacking, doing all sorts of adventures every day, going to the gym, going home. and its performance is on par with anything and really exceeds anything that we've ever tested. So we're excited for you guys to get this piece. We do enjoy you guys tuning in for these. If you have not left us a podcast review, I don't know what we need to do. We need to start incentivizing you guys or doing some kind of a giveaway. But if you have not yet left an iTunes review or a review on whatever platform you guys use, please do so. Let us know what you like about the podcast. We'll gladly do more content related to what you guys get the most value out of here on the podcast. If you have any feedback or questions, you can always reach out to us at liveultralightpodcast@gmail.com. That'll forward over to one of our content guys here that will filter through those and make sure that we address those on the podcast. So with any questions, again, that's liveultralightpodcast@gmail.com. We're happy to answer those. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you subscribe, and also go over to YouTube and subscribe to the Live Ultralight podcast on YouTube.
And if I could put a little plug in here too, we've covered a lot of hidden gems about the KotaUL that we've found and that are going to be valuable to you. But for any of you that already have the pack and are using it and trying things out, we would love to hear what you found. Like it's very possible that we've missed something and that there's another way to use the KotaUL that we haven't thought of. And we'd love to hear that. So go ahead and drop your thoughts in the comments below here or shoot us a message on support@outdoorvitals.com. We want to hear from you guys just as much as we want to share what we found with you.
There's definitely things I've tried that I'm not sharing, such as using straps to hold toddlers onto the backpack and other things that I don't endorse, but you can get creative, guys, and get creative. Send it in, tag us on Instagram, whatever you want to do. We'd love to see it. We really appreciate you guys. And I think with that, we'll go ahead and close up this podcast, and we'll see you guys, or you guys will hear us on the next one.